And a pleasant good evening to you and yours, and welcome to the UbrZati High School Football Preview Show, Week 5, brought to you by American Air and Plumbing, home of the Cool Zone Football Florida Tough Player of the Month. I'm Alan Slaughter-Zinski, joined, of course, tonight by Jackson Robb and my good buddy Anthony Knockreiner. A whole slate of high school football games we've got for you this week. We've got 4 games this week on the network and 4 ranked teams as well. And before I get started, and we get started, I should say, let me bring in my partners tonight, Jackson Robb on the left, Anthony Knockreiner on the right. Gentlemen, start with you, Knock. You always got to start with the elder statesman. How are you, buddy?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Just excited for another week of football. My Bucks are 2-0, so, I'm good.
Okay, the UbrZati High School football. No, I'm joking with you. I'm joking with you. No, good for your Bucks. Baker Mayfield has looked unusually good. I'm not sure how much longer that's going to last, but good luck to you guys with that moving forward. Jackson, I know you won't be talking NFL. You're a Panthers fan. How's your week been?
It's been good. A lot of work, school and volleyball games, but ready for Friday night, and it'll be interesting this week for sure.
All right, gentlemen, we're going to start the week off this week just taking a quick glimpse back at last week. And as we will do moving forward on this show, we will start our week with our rankings from last week. So I'm in the bottom right-hand corner. You guys occupy the big screen at the moment. So our first official rankings are as follows. We had Palm Bay 7, Merritt Island 6, Titusville 5, Heritage 3, Ogali 3, Rockledge 2, and the Cocoa Tigers 1. Guys, I think you can take 2 through 7, put them in a bag, shake them up, and however they fall out, they fall out. In fact, I may just do my rankings like that, knowing that Cocoa is on top. Look, guys, I mean, honestly, Rockledge gets the win tonight over Osceola, by the way, 19-16. I don't believe we're a very good county offensively. Let me just start there by saying that.
Outside of one team.
Yes, 2, 3, maybe. Holy Trinity, Merritt Island, and, of course, Cocoa. Yeah. But I think Rockledge, Heritage is good offensively, okay? But you look at Rockledge, you look at Ogali, Titusville, and they get the job done because all 3 of them can run the football. But I think overall, offensively, this is a county at the moment that's defensive-laden. Mm-hmm. But is it conducive to playoff football? Is what we're seeing right now at Week 5, is this playoff football yet?
Yeah, I mean, I think for all these teams you talk about from 2 to 7, I've seen flashes of these teams like Rockledge dropping 59 points offensively where it seems like, okay, this team's figured it out, and then they come out the next week, and regardless win or loss, it's like, well, now it's a completely different team. So these teams have kind of gone back and forth, up and down, game by game, week by week. So it's kind of hard to say. I think at their best, some of these teams could have a deep playoff run. At their worst, they could be a first-round exit. I mean, it's hard to pinpoint.
And clock.
Yeah, I mean, even it's week 5, and every week I always say I want to find out more, and it's hard to when things just aren't consistent.
Do we know? Right? I mean, it's week 5. I don't know that you can change what's broken at this point.
I think it depends on what the roster situation is. I mean, how many guys are sitting, how many guys are not in, injuries, those types of things. I think when you look at it, if the teams that are struggling offensively, we're talking about struggling throwing the football. O'Galley can't run the football. As long as they can run the football, they'll take it to the house. And if you can run the football in the playoffs, you have success.
That's what I'm saying.
But if you don't have the balance, then that causes a problem because defenses, as you go further down, they're just going to load the box on you. So that's going to be a problem. I have concerns for a lot of teams that could be in the playoffs. I think we'll obviously have teams that will be in it, and we'll have teams that will win first rounds. But deep playoff runs, I don't see it.
We can see. I don't either. I'm sorry. I mean, I'm just saying I don't see it. 8. We could have 8 to 10 teams go to the playoffs, and unless they're playing, we could theoretically coming into week 2, unless some things change in some places, we could see 2 teams advance to week 2. That's just how I feel at the moment. having seen as much football as we have.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, you talk about the quarterbacks with the stats pulled up. 3 of the top 5 quarterbacks in passing yards right now are not in the Super 7. So the only 2 are Brady Hart from Cocoa and Sean Hartman from Merritt Island. So the rest of the guys in our Super 7, besides Rockledge and Palm Bay where you don't have stats, but then after that, they're not in the top 5 in passing yards when I only have 14 stats. I mean, it's not like I'm looking at 40 guys. I mean, that's top 5 out of 14. So, yeah, the passing game, their run games are great.
I don't see Palm Bay or Rockledge putting a quarterback in the top 5 in passing.
No, but, yeah, their running games are great. But it's just hard. You come into the playoffs, when they went suburban and metro, it maybe was a little bit weaker last year, but I think kind of now a year in, teams are starting to kind of build up more with these classifications, and now it's not as easy. And I think some of these teams have really amped it up, so it's going to be harder this year more than.
Why is Heritage 4 or 3? Yeah, why is Heritage 4 in our poll?
I rank it by a lot of strength of schedule and what I saw in that game against Oviedo, and in which this was a team where they were based on, their record obviously being undefeated and then their defense being arguably, as a lot of people would try and say, the top of the county. And then you go out and let up 42 points on your first true road game against your toughest opponent to date. And when you're talking about a weak strength of schedule and your defense being your focal point and your defense lets up 42 and you lose on the road, I just said, looking at the other teams I put above them, those teams kind of checked off more of those boxes than Heritage did.
Why do you think they're at 4?
Well, I think for me, it's simply the fact of, okay, who can beat the teams ahead of them? We're talking about the top teams in the county. Can Heritage beat Rockledge? And how about O'Galley as well? This obviously will be a jumbled mess, but I think for me, Heritage can score the football. I think what kind of dropped them for me is that defense was not. We talked about their defense the first couple of weeks.
All year.
Yeah, first couple of weeks. And their defense just didn't quite hold. I mean, the Oviedo quarterback did some really nice things, put up some big yards, and obviously their defense has some work to do coming into this week against Merritt Island. We'll get into that. But that's probably the biggest thing for me was just the fact that Heritage gave up so many points against probably the toughest team on their schedule.
If they go into Merritt Island or Merritt Island goes into Heritage tomorrow night and Heritage plays the way they did against Oviedo, I don't think they don't win.
Yeah, I think Merritt Island knows that. They're going to come out. They're playing good football. Regardless of their strength of schedule as well, they're playing good football. A lot of teams thought, Trinity would keep it close. They shut them out. This offense, they have 2. They have a top 5 passer and a top 5 rusher right now. So Merritt Island's offense is really looking good. They got a dual threat
at the backfield.
Yeah, they do. I mean, you got Sean Hartman 5th in passing yards and then Kasim Ross 5th in rushing yards. Yeah, we know about that offense. We'll see how their defense does against Heritage, but this was a game last year in which Heritage was the underdog at Merritt Island, and Heritage won that game. So
this has started that run for Heritage last year.
Yeah, that was the game, and now it's kind of a flipped roles kind of thing where even as an undefeated team, Merritt Island may be viewed as a slight underdog in this game, and I think they're going to play like that. Heritage, again, that's one of those up-and-down teams. I think some of their games they won in shutouts, they looked capable of blowing these teams out. And then you look at last week, and it looks like Merritt Island could hang in this game or win it.
Merritt Island sits at 6 for one reason and one reason only in our poll, and that is because their strength of schedule of their opponents faced at this point is 3-13.
Yeah.
That's why they're 6th. And I think it's fair of our voters, all 10 of us, to want to see Heritage go out and go down to Heritage. Or Merritt Island, I should say. Merritt Island sits at 6 because their strength of schedule is 3-13. And I think it's fair for us to want to see Merritt Island go down to Heritage and win. I don't want to see Merritt Island go down to Heritage and get beat by 3 touchdowns. Because then...
then it's the same point we make with Heritage.
That's exactly right. So, yeah, all right. So that's our Super 7 for the week. I also want to... real quick while I have everybody here, because I know everybody fades in, fades out, fades in, fades out throughout the course of the broadcast, but I think it's utterly important that I continue to ask for prayers and thoughts for Donnie Reber Jr. Donnie is recovering in the hospital at the Moffitt Cancer Center in Tampa. Donnie is just absolutely terrific, and he found out yesterday that he's got stage 4 colon cancer, and he went into the Moffitt Cancer Center yesterday with the thought that he was going to have his cancer removed. He's got colon cancer. He goes in, the doctors find spots on his liver. Unfortunately, that's stage 4. And now Donnie's got a hell of a fight ahead of him. It's a fight that I know Donnie can win. It's a fight I know Donnie will win, but he needs your help. He needs your thoughts and prayers. And the information is there on the screen. If in any way, and I mean in any way, you can help financially, Donnie will be spending his birthday, which is the 25th, at the Moffitt Cancer Center as well, recovering. So the information is there on the screen, and we greatly, greatly appreciate you. And Donnie, my brother, get well. Get well soon, and don't you give up. All right, guys. We got the players of the week this week. The Cool Zone Florida Tough Players of the Week. Florida Tough Football. 2 weeks we'll be giving out the overall Florida Tough Football Player of the Month. There won't be one offensively. There won't be one defensively. Offensively, for us this week, it was Chase Cromartie from the Vieira Hawks. Let's give Chase a round of applause because Chase last week, 32 of 38, 358 yards, 4 touchdowns. He had 6 carries for 59 yards and a touchdown. I don't care who you're playing. Anytime you throw the football 38 times and you only miss 6 of them, that's pretty damn good, or PDG, as my mom used to say. Chase Cromartie, our American Aaron Plumbing, Cool Zone Football, Florida Tough, Offensive Player of the Week. And Jackson, you've got some stats to tell us about old Chase.
Yeah, Chase Cromartie here in their first 3 games of being played, he's up to 982 yards. That's second in the county, only 42 yards behind Brady Hart at the top. 113 QBR, 11 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. He also leads this team in rushing with 12 carries, 119 yards, and another touchdown. On top of that, and Cromartie with a big game like that and a statement win. Their first win since 2021 led by quarterback Chase Cromartie. So congratulations to him, and I think it's well-deserved, the stats he's putting up.
600-plus days.
Yeah.
I'm chuckling because I got tired of writing it. I'm not chuckling because it was over 600 days. I'm just glad they won so I can stop counting the damn days. Congratulations to the Vieira Hawks, too, by the way, on that victory. That's huge. Listen, that gets a huge brick off their back. I really feel like this offense can go out there and, listen, I think they can put yards on just about any defense in this county. They've got most of their defensive players back. I don't know. I don't want to sit here and say that I think Vieira is this or I think Vieira is that. But I will tell you this. That offense is legitimate, guys.
Yeah, they are. I got to see him against Rockledge in a game that the scoreboard, shows they lost by quite a bit, but that offense hung within a score or 2 in the whole first half. They scored 21 points on the Rockledge defense, which we keep touting. They held Kissimmee Osceola to 16 tonight, just to show you how well Vieira's offense played in that game. And yeah, they do have a seriously good offense. Chase Cromartie, Zach Pillow, a great wide receiver. He's number 3 in the county. I think they have 4 100-yard receivers right now. I think that's
pretty good.
Yeah, through 3 games. That's
spreading the ball around.
Vieira's offense is very multifaceted. We'll see how their defense holds up the rest of the season. They've also had flashes and some lower points as well. But that offense, I know for Vieira, has talent.
Our Cool Zone. Let me pull up our Florida Tough Football, American Air and Plumbing Cool Zone Defensive Player of the Week. And this guy is really the player. Not to diminish in any way what Chase Cromartie did, but this guy, to me, is really the player. It was between him or Chris Kelly and of Merritt Island. And we went with Nate Lopez of the Titusville Terriers. Now, you're going to look at Nate's stats on defense, and he had 11 tackles. And you're going to find guys around this county that had more tackles, more sacks, maybe a pick or 2 more. And Nate had 11 tackles last week, a tackle for a loss. He had a sack in the game. But Nate plays both ways, you see. And I know this is the defensive player of the week, but Chase Cromartie had a hell of a week, and you could not give him the offensive player of the week. But Nate Lopez is also a running back for the Titusville Terriers. And he had 21 carries for 118 yards and a touchdown last week. And on top of the week that he had defensively, Nate was getting an award, and he's getting the defensive player of the week. Guys, what a performance by Nate Lopez. What a great job by that Titusville Terrier team. As we said, you know what? I think they know there's no identity crisis in Titusville. They know exactly who they are. They're going to use Lopez and Stevens to control the ground. If Josiah Allen needs to put the football in the air, as he showed a couple of weeks ago, he can do that too. Threw for 200-plus yards a couple of weeks ago. But they're going to punch you in the face defensively. They're going to run the football down your throat. Stop it.
I mean, listen, Titusville's impressive in the fact that they've got those two backs. I like what they're doing. And to be honest with you, I feel like Titusville, if you had to take a gauge of the teams that are actually trending in the right direction, where we talked about where we feel like they're making the improvements that we need to see, Titusville's among them. Titusville offensively is getting better every single week and every time we see them out there, and that's a big key for them. So Titusville is looking better and better. They're moving up my rankings.
Yeah, there's nothing. They know what they are, and that's what they're going to do, and it's going to win football games. They're not going to beat Cocoa, in my opinion, but they can be 9-1, Jackson.
Yeah, they can. I mean, you talk about congratulations to Nate Lopez. They have two top 6 running backs in this county right now. Jamarion Stevens, 6. Nate Lopez is actually second in yards with 334 and 4 touchdowns. Defensively, he is their tackle leader as well. So Lopez plays great both sides of the ball. Me and Logan saw that week number 1 against Melbourne. Logan loved seeing Nate play. And, because I was expecting, Jamarion Stevens will probably control the ground game. But no, Nate Lopez was going out there making big plays. And then defensively, I think he had a few turnovers forced in that game as well. Just from my own experience watching, not last week, that was week 1, but still, he was making plays both sides of the ball. And, he had a great game there. And hearing it again, I mean, Lopez definitely deserves that. He's playing great offensively and defensively.
I think, too, we're the recipients this week. And the other thing I'm going to do this week is every Monday, I'm going to make the Facebook header page. You know how they used to do the Madden bus where you would have the players' pictures on the side who were players of the week?
Yeah.
I'm going to do that. I'm going to put each week for the players that we've selected so far, they're all going to be on the front top of the page on Mondays. Actually, I'll probably do it on Sundays, NFL Sundays. So Nate Lopez and Chase Cromartie will see their pictures at the top of our Facebook page on Sunday. We'll do it Sunday along with the other players of the month. And we'll just do that, every week to recognize these guys as well. Listen, if anybody out there in another sport wants to step up and sponsor a Player of the Week or a Player of the Month award, send me an email. We'd be happy to do it and show them the recognition, gratitude, and love that they deserve in the other 5 sports as well. So, all right, guys, let's discuss. Well, before we discuss the upcoming week, I was listening to Spaces coming home from volleyball tonight. Always entertaining, always a lot of information there. I love listening to it because you get to hear the coaches talk and you get to hear the coaches' thoughts. And I never interject. And I just think it's very good to hear the other side of the equation than us trying to overanalyze everything, Mm-hmm. I think in a lot of ways, a lot of times, it's just easier to keep it simple, stupid. With that said, my question to you is this. As it pertains to high school football, I thought about this on the ride home listening. What are the 3 most important things when it comes to a successful high school football program? Is it culture? Is it student athletes? Is it coaching? What would you say are the 3 most important things as it pertains to a successful high school football program?
I would say coaching, dedication out of both coaches and the student athletes, and then just teamwork. These guys got to be together and work as a unit. And I think if you have those 3, and the talent on the field will show. And I think that that's the 3 as a team you need.
What would you say, Knock?
I think it's culture, then it's coaching, and then it's student athletes, because I've been around programs where, you have top-notch players, but they just don't quite make the result happen.
Or don't care.
Or that too. I think it's all about culture. I've seen, and I can even speak to my days in Montana, it's just, it's amazing how much a coach, that you got all the kids believing in that coach, and the culture's also set where the standards are set. Nobody's above those standards. I know everybody can kind of point to the fact that we looked at the Florida documentary and what Urban Meyer said, but that's college football. In high school football, you got to have everybody buying in. The culture's got to be there. I saw that at Flathead, and that led to success. I saw when it left, it didn't lead to a lot of success. And so for me, it's all about culture and just getting the kids to just really buy into what the coach is saying and telling you. Because you can have a coach that says all the right things, but if the kids don't buy it, they just let it go in one ear out the other. It doesn't end in results. I can even go back to my days with Todd Wilson. shows up there on summer, June 1st. He's our head coach after a head coaching change, and he changed the culture, and all of a sudden we end up winning a district that everybody had us probably just winning 2 or 3 games. In '07, we win a district. So it's really about the culture, and it was about the culture that Wilson set at that time and the expectations for everybody there.
I couldn't agree with you more, Jackson. I hear you, and I agree with a lot of the things that you said. But I'm with you, and I think culture's first. I think culture at the high school level, culture's first. Listen, I get what Urban Meyer did. I'm going to play my, I'm going to treat my stars like stars and my like right? Mm-hmm. I mean, that's the Urban Meyer way, right? I mean, at least it was at Florida, right? You can't do that at the high school level because you're still developing student athletes. Listen, I don't care how many 4 and 5 and 3 and 4 and 5 stars you have. I don't care. Because we've seen instances, and just as you said, we've seen instances where teams are loaded with it. We got teams this year loaded with it, right? Loaded with talent. That something seems amiss with the culture. And you can't put your finger on it. You don't know what it is. But, yes, culture is the most important thing at the high school level. And then you're right, coaching. Coaching is so important in high school. I think a good coaching staff can win you 2 out of 10 football games every year. And then it's the student athletes themselves. And then it comes, and not necessarily talent, okay? The buying in process, the execution, the being coachable. But that all circles back to culture. I can't tell you how important. We are very blessed, very, very blessed in this county to have access. I've been in NFL locker rooms. I've been in professional locker rooms. I've been in college locker rooms. I've been in high school locker rooms. And I can tell you for a fact that coaching is far more important in high school football than it is at any other level. Mm-hmm. And because at the NFL level, a head coach talks to his coordinators talk to their position coaches, and it all comes together for a game plan. I've seen interviews where head coaches forget the damn name of a player because they just don't have that type of interaction with them. At the college level, they're all recruits. All of them are recruits. That's how they look at them. But at the high school level, it is the high school football coach's responsibility. And it's going to get even greater once NIL becomes legal in Florida. We already know there's recruiting going on, right? You can't hide that fact.
Right.
So you tie all of that in, and man, does the high school football coach have such a tough job. And that's why hiring the right staff is important, because if you don't have that, you can't create that culture. And that culture needs to be about winning. I get it. You want to go out, you want to have fun, let's play the game right, let's teach the game. But we often see kids don't stay at 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 win programs. Okay? Yeah, they will if it's for a year or two. But you have to create a culture. Kids today are different. Student athletes today are different. They are like they were in college 20 years ago. Today's high school was college 20 years ago. It is. Mm-hmm. The athletes are just as big, just as strong, and just as fast as they were 20, 25 years ago in college. And so culture is so important at this level because their bodies are developing faster than their minds. And you've got to harness all of that in. So, yes, it's culture, coaching, and then the student athlete. And I bring that up just because I scratch my head sometimes when I look at performances from outstanding football teams, and just that something seems to be missing. And I was curious as to what you two thought ranked above what in importance.
Yeah, I agree with you guys said completely. I just, the one I also added in was teamwork, because I think in the team itself, these guys got to stay together. You can't, in teams I've played on, you can't get down on one another, and, you can't give up on a game. You guys got to be a unit. That goes for football. I see that in volleyball. I see that in lacrosse. I see that in basketball. Yeah. You got to be, if someone messes up, it's not, you're terrible. Why'd you do that? It's all right. You missed that slide. You missed that block. You missed that pass. You know what to do next time. But you got to be there to actively keep each other involved, because it's easily for people to drift apart, especially like you said in today's world, NIL, transferring, whatever. new guys could get transfer into a school, and now they could be like an odd man out. And one way or another, they could get singled out, or they just have to gel together quickly. They can have maybe one adjustment game in a season, but then your teamwork's got to be together. You guys have to be a unit. That's an interview question I'll always ask players of the game and coaches, the brotherhood and what they have, because that's important. And that's why I'm asking you this as a player of the game, because you're winning.
Yep.
And that's why I always get the same answer.
Yeah, what are you doing?
Yeah, I mean,
surround yourself with it.
And that's why they're winning games. So
I totally agree.
Yeah.
UbrZati is a set of scientifically developed protocols that have evolved over the last 20-plus years to rapidly develop athletes beyond their normal capabilities. If you would like to have an UbrZati athlete, well, it's really quite simple. Log on to UbrZati.com, and you can also get in touch with my man, Max Amato, over at UbrZati. He works with so many teams, and each and every Friday night, we've got so many different UbrZati high school football. You know who they are. And start next week. Next week on the show, I'm gonna put together a little film and show you just who those UbrZati athletes are, because week in and week out they do a hell of a job. I wouldn't say that they're outperforming everyone in the county, but they're right there at the top, doing an amazing job. And nobody helps these student athletes develop faster, stronger, and become a more confident athlete better than does UbrZati. With that said, you're watching the UbrZati High School Football Week 5 preview show, brought to you by Natwick Insurance and American Air and Plumbing, home of the Florida Tough High School Football Player of the Month. Gentlemen, on our screen is our broadcast schedule. Anthony Knockreiner, Chase Alexander, and Daryl Duran will be at Cocoa High School for the Commodores and the Tigers. It'll be Caleb Brown, Billy Palmer, and Coach Blue down at Heritage for Merritt Island and Heritage. I'll be on the road again. I'll stop as Vieira travels up to play Baker County, and their former head coach, Kevin Mays, and Jackson and Logan Pettit will be at Satellite, or at Astronaut, I should say, for Satellite and Astronaut. And be sure to get on down tomorrow night after your football game is complete at Walk-Ons for the post-game show outside. Jackson will be running that ship tomorrow night. I'm sure Logan will be there, maybe even Knock. We'll see. But tomorrow night at Walk-Ons, following all high school football here on Brevard Sports Network. All right, guys, it's time to break down Week 5 in the Brevard, or actually in Brevard County. Holy Trinity at Father Lopez. Listen, the Tigers got hammered last week. They know it. I'm not saying anything they don't know. They travel to play Father Lopez. I like Brogan McNabb, Hurley Brown, and company to bounce back big this week, guys.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a big win for Holy Trinity. I like them in this one. I mean, they got a top 3 quarterback, the leading rusher in the county, the leading receiver in the county. That offense, arguably, stat-wise at least, is the best in the county right now. So, I think they're going to have a big win against Father Lopez and a big rebound. I still think their schedule after this, playing in 1S and playing in their district, they'll be able to run through it. I think they should be district champions. I think Holy Trinity, looking at 1S, could be a team to watch going deep.
Knock.
I like Holy Trinity as well, but I'll tell you what, Holy Trinity's got to watch out because Father Lopez does have a pretty good quarterback and junior quarterback Loman. He's got 653 yards passing. They got a really good playmaker in their wide receiver in Sweeney, who's got 15 catches, 341 yards, and 5 touchdowns on the season. So that defense is going to be tested over in the air once again. So going to be a big test for Holy Trinity's defense through the air, but I do like Holy Trinity to find a way to bounce back.
Melbourne at Toho tomorrow night. So, guys, listen, Toho's 3-0. Melbourne's 0-4. I'd love to see the Bulldogs snap. In just a second, I'd love to see the Bulldogs snap out of whatever funk they're in. Listen, they just struggling offensively right now. 33 points they've scored this year. They've given up 101, but I think this is far more of an offensive problem and a youth problem than it is anything. Toho's a very good football team. We'll see, but I think if we have to make the picks. I think Toho moves to 4-0. How do you guys see this?
Yeah, I agree. I think this one's going to be a tough battle for Melbourne. And, I think the offense is something that just has to be addressed because I'm trying to remember what it was. I think you said they got 6 turnovers defensively last week against Orange Park, and you lose by 2 touchdowns. with 6 turnovers defensively and you lose by 2 touchdowns offensively, that shouldn't really ever happen. So that offense has got to figure it out because Toho is going to come in here and make a statement early. They're going to be a hard, fast team for Melbourne to play. And this is going to be another tough one. And their schedule's not easy going out, but I do think there's winnable games ahead. But this one I just don't think is one of them.
Knock this defense. You got Wright, and I think his name is pronounced Gajan, already over 60 tackles. Wright's got 68, Gajan 62 by Wyatt Vitava with 54. You got 3 guys already with nearly 180 tackles. That tells me this defense is on the field a lot.
Yeah, and listen, 6 turnovers and you can't win the game last week. That's tough. I think this defense will keep them in the ball game for a half, but at the same time, what does Padala do? What does this offense do? They have got to find ways to give their defense a breather. They can be in close games. They have a shot to win it, but their offense has to give their defense a breather.
And I don't know that that's going to happen, and I don't know that that's a bad thing. And what I mean by that is if, remember we said Titusville knows who they are? Well, it's okay to be young and know who you are, too. And it's okay to know that, you know what, yeah, we want to go out and kick somebody's ass every week. We want to go win a football game. I guarantee you every one of those kids step on the field and say that, okay? The same goes for Space Coast and the same goes for Astronaut. But it's also okay to say, you know what, we're young. And if we don't come out of here with this win tonight, the one thing that every one of us need to do when we put our heads on that pillow tonight is, can you say to yourself, I got better tonight? And I think that ultimately needs to be the goal. And I don't mean to sound like the weak uncle here, but that's the truth. If you can't win these games, you've got to find ways to get better.
Yeah, but that's not enough for seniors because guess what? Seniors, what are they building to? And like I said, very similar situation my last year. But my point is that I think for this football team, they've got to find ways to get better, find what works, kind of multiply that in any way that they can. And I'm sure the coaching staff is. But at the same time, for Melbourne, you've got to, it's one thing to be youthful, but you've got to be making some progress with that youth if that's the case, and you're going in that direction. So defensively, again, I love what they're doing defensively, just right. Offensively. I mean, I hate to say it, but that's almost Melbourne. I mean, Melbourne's identity for a long time has always been defense. We'll see if they can get the offense going.
All right, guys, the next game up on the docket is St. Joe at MCC. St. Joe 1-3, MCC 2-2. Day last week left the game early. I mean, he's the key to the offense, right? I mean, because they did absolutely nothing when Day left. With all due respect to Day, they did absolutely nothing with him in the football game. Vieira just played well last week. But I don't know anything about St. Joseph, so I'll take the Hustlers to move to 3-2.
Yeah, St. Joseph seems like, I'm just looking at their schedule at 1-3. They got shut out their first 2 weeks. Their one win was in overtime last week. So, I think this is definitely a winnable game for MCC. That's another team that has had a solid offense. Joseph Allen, quarterback, is 4th in passing in the county right now with 712 yards. So, he's been able to move the ball around, but Day Farmer has been the focal point of that offense. So I don't know his availability or if he's all good to go this week, which if so, I think they should easily win this game. Without him, things could get a little bit more complicated for MCC in this game. I still think Coach Hooks will get them rallied, and they should be able to beat this team. But, the absence of Farmer could change things up a little bit.
Next game up on the docket. Knock, we'll start with you first on this one. This should be a really good football game. I almost kind of wish this was like a Thursday game so we could have done it because we love broadcasting at Fort Pierce Central. We've done it before. Palm Bay, 2-2 at Fort Pierce Central. I think it's 2-1. That's where I got them at. But listen, Palm Bay last week nearly came back on Titusville. That was a slobber knocker of an affair, a 16-10 loss. I like Dan Burke to go down there and get a win at Fort Pierce. Fort Pierce is a good football team this year, but I like that defense and that rushing attack of Palm Bay to go down, control time, control, clock management, control the tempo of play. I like Palm Bay in this one.
Yeah, I like Palm Bay as well, but defensively they're going to have their hands full. Fort Pierce Central's quarterback, I believe it's Whitley, he's thrown for 345 and 6 touchdowns. Only has
pretty good.
Only one interception so far this season, so that defense is going to have to try and force Whitley into some mistakes. He does have 2 really good receivers in senior wide receiver Paul and junior wide receiver Blackwood. Those have been his main targets, both guys over 100 yards. I lean to a team, Palm Bay. They've got a good defense. Lean on them again here. Can those Pirates force Whitley into some mistakes to create some short fields for their offense to be able to put some points on the board. That's going to be the key for me. But I do like Palm Bay. But I'll tell you what, it's going to be a squeaker. 20-17 to be my pick.
Yeah, Jackson.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. We see Palm Bay at number 7 this week in the Super 7. And this is going to be, I think, their one of their biggest tests all year. And Fort Pierce Central is a sneaky good team. I mean, they beat Bayside and Centennial this season. Their loss was to Jensen Beach in a shutout. But, I don't think they don't look otherworldly impressive. I think Palm Bay can win this football game, but I look at the schedule, you can kind of directly compare that to Heritage, in which Heritage beat Jensen Beach, they beat Bayside, and they beat Centennial, in which Heritage beat Palm Bay. So if you look at that, this team kind of matches up almost like Heritage, except for that Jensen Beach score, which kind of shows that they are vulnerable. Offensively, maybe a little bit there. Again, they got shut out in that game. So yeah, I think Palm Bay's going to have to, their defense is going to have to bow up. I just think if they still play their own football and just stick to what they're good at, they can come out and win this game for sure. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game, just like Titusville was, but I think if they jump out early, unlike last week when Titusville had the lead early, I think that Palm Bay could take this one.
The Cougars of Cardinal Mooney, good program. They're going to travel to Space Coast, and I keep looking for an opportunity for Space Coast to pick up their first win, and I know Cliff Nichols is working hard to get that team really good every week, but this is a pretty good Cardinal Mooney Cougar football team, a really good football team. They're 3-1 this year. I don't know that it's going to come this week. I like Cardinal Mooney.
Yeah, this one will be interesting just to see how they fare. I mean, last week in Celebration they kept it close, but that was a game that I thought was winnable, but not necessarily easy, but a game that they could have won, and they come up on the losing end there. But this one's going to be a lot more difficult, and we'll see how Coach Nichols' group will fare.
In 4 games, Cardinal Mooney's rushed for 800-plus yards.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty impressive. They got a young man that's rushed for almost 350, and another guy that's rushed for 270. They got 3 guys in triple digits rushing this season, which is awfully impressive. And, oh, by the way, their quarterback, 39-63. He's got 546 yards, 7 touchdowns, 1 interception. The thing with Cardinal Mooney is this, and this is what Cliff Nichols is going to have to contend with. They score a ton of points. They got 140 points in 4 games this year, and they've only given up 58. So, I don't know that this is the week where Space Coast picks up that first win, but it's going to be a tough one tomorrow night. Fleming Island at Titusville, and this is not going to be an easy football game for Titusville tomorrow night. I don't think. You're looking at me like I'm crazy.
Well, I mean, I got to remember, I was looking at their schedule earlier, but nothing really stood out to me in terms of what Fleming Island's done so far. I don't know much about Fleming Island at this point, but at the same time, this is a 2-1 football team. I expect Titusville to lean on what they do best. Play good defense, and they run the football. Probably throw a little play action in there, see if they can get over the top of this Fleming Island defense, but I expect Titusville to win by 2 scores.
They don't put up stats. Fleming Island doesn't, but the one I do know from having dug into a couple of the newspapers up there, they run the hell out of the football. They do a terrific job with that. I think they rushed for almost 200 yards in their first game. So they're going to run the football. So to me, this looks like one of those Palm Bay games. But any game that's going to be close like this, I like Palm Bay. I just do because you got Lopez or Titusville. I'm sorry, Titusville, because you got the 2-headed backs in Lopez and Stevens back there. And again, if Josiah Allen needs to throw the football, I think they can get that done too. I like Titusville tomorrow. I like to pull away late in this one.
Yeah, these teams are ranked only 4 spots apart in Florida. 123 for Titusville, 127 for Fleming Island. So we talk about, how good they can be this year outside of possibly the Cocoa game, but this will be their true test. I think this will be their biggest test so far. And I like when they play outside the county. They beat a solid U-League team as well, so now they're playing Fleming Island. They take them at home. I do think this is a game they can win. I think Lopez and Jamarion Stevens are going to play great out of that backfield. I think that defense can limit Fleming Island, although Fleming Island scores 32 points a game. We'll see what Titusville can do to counter that. I just think when it's this kind of evenly matched, you look at 2 teams that can run the football, 2 teams that kind of match up the same. Those are the games that Titusville just somehow ends up coming out on top of. Those games where you put them head-to-head. So, yeah, I think Titusville can win this game, but it's going to be a tough test.
Knock, I assume, based on the look you gave me, you're taking Titusville pretty easy in this one.
I got Titusville winning by 14 points in this one.
All right. Knock's got Titusville, but 14 points. Gentlemen, what did we say Vieira hadn't won a football game in 673 days.
Right.
Well, it's probably been over a year since I picked the Vieira Hawks to win a football game. But I believe they're going to go to Baker County tomorrow night and win this football game. I believe that they are. Look, they went up there 2 years ago as a heavy underdog to Baker County. And C.J. Sims played the game of his high school football career and beat Baker County in this one. A young freshman by the name of Terrence Latner played shutdown corner in this one. It was just an incredible game. Look, don't let the record fool you here of Baker County. They're 1-2, but they lost 12-0 to Bradford, who faced Cocoa in the state semifinals last year. They lost 27-22. Glenn Academy, who out of Georgia, who's Brunswick, Georgia, who's a great football team, and then they beat Baldwin last week, 12-7. I don't know that Baker County has enough offensively to keep up with Vieira. I think Vieira is going to at least score 25 points in this game. I don't think Baker County is. I don't think they have the weapons. That's just me. I like Vieira to win this game, guys.
Yeah, this one's extremely hard because I do like Vieira, I think, more than a lot of people may. I mean, I had them right on the edge of the Super 7, believe it or not. I like what their offense does a lot. But this is a good Baker County team. As you said, the strength of schedule. Bradford's 4-0. Glenn Academy out of Georgia's 3-1. Baldwin's a good team. They went out and beat. But as you said, they scored 0, 20, and 12 in their wins. So I think if Vieira's offense can get in a stride like they did against Rockledge, most notably in the game that I saw, even when they lost, they scored 21 points. Yeah, I mean, I think the key is just going to be offensively. If they can start getting in a rhythm and scoring a lot of points, but this Baker County team's
But
really
you ain't picking them yet, are you?
I don't think so here. I took them last week, and another thing for that is something you have to take into account. It's a 3-hour bus ride up to Baker County, and
Thanks. Go ahead, Doc.
About to say, Jackson just cheering you right up with that ride tomorrow.
But you know what? Let me say you this. I'll make this announcement now. I got the best riding partner tomorrow. But you know who my broadcast partner is tomorrow? DeMarcus Manyfield, Coach Many. Go ahead, Doc.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I mean, I listen. I think Vieira showed last week and what we saw against MCC. They got a multitude of weapons. Tucker caught 2 touchdown passes. You can't just focus on Pillow. You got to worry about Tucker. Listen, their tight end,
Eric Nelson.
Eric Nelson, he does a lot of things as well. And Mikey Schmidt did some nice.
Yeah.
I mean, and Ryan Bubar.
Yeah. And then how about our player of the game last week? I don't know.
That was Tucker, though, wasn't it?
No. Was it Tucker?
I think so. I think Tucker, who had 2 touchdowns. And they got a young corner in Anderson who had 2 interceptions last week, too. Listen, I'm going to take Vieira here. I think as long as they're healthy. I know that they were missing some guys early in the season. So if they're healthy here, I really liked what I saw last week. And I know that's against NCC, but I think they've got a good pass rush. Their defensive line can do some nice things. I think that they can win tomorrow.
Yeah, I like Vieira in this situation. I really do. I don't think Baker County can get in a shootout with them. I think Vieira can get in a shootout with anybody. I really do. And I tell you what, people are going to laugh at this, but by the time we get to that Heritage game, listen, man, if you go back and watch that Oviedo film, it's going to be interesting. That's all I'm going to say.
Vieira can spread the ball.
They can spread the ball around.
Yeah.
Satellite. At Astronaut, I've seen some people pick Astronaut in this football game. I don't see it. I like the Scorps, but 2-2. Jackson, I think this is all Satellite tomorrow night.
Yeah, I think this should be a win for Satellite. I agree. Astronaut's a retooling program, but what I saw to Noah Flores last week, he had 2 interceptions against Mari Crooms. I think that defense is just going to have a massive night against Astronaut. And I think their offense, Logan Waite got in the end zone on the ground. They were running the ball pretty well. Ethan Rayful had some good passes down the sideline. Tristan White came in and threw one as well. I'm a little lenient. I hope that I see a little bit more out of the passing game tomorrow night in that one when, seeing against.
Ethan Rayful's got to find a rhythm.
They
do. Find more of a rhythm.
Yeah, I think.
Does he have a favorite target yet?
Not really. Not from what I could tell. Receiving. Actually, yeah. No, they do. It's Eric Wiesa. He has 7 receptions, 137 yards, 2 touchdowns. But Yeah, I want to see them use this game if they get up big to, address the passing game, address some of their weaknesses, and go out. I think Satellite should win this game, but yeah, I just think their defense is going to be key. I think that'll be able to just keep them giving their offense more and more chances to score. I do want to see Astronaut. Fun fact, I've never seen Astronaut in person in 2 years, so I want to see what Astronaut has. I want to see what they are going to come out with, and I want to see how they play. But just from what I can see, record and whatnot, I just think Satellite will have this one.
We'll save O'Galley and Cocoa and Merritt Island and Heritage for last. We'll step up to Halifax Academy football, who is 3-0, and they're going to travel over to play Cocoa Beach tomorrow night, gentlemen. And listen, Halifax Academy, I don't know why they're 3-0. I mean, you look at them statistically, they don't overwhelm you statistically. They've scored 88 points. They've allowed 29. I guess their defense is the big thing here. But for me, Cocoa Beach is at home tomorrow night. They seem to put some pieces of the puzzle together in their last win. I don't know what happened in weeks 1 or 2. They had their bye week, okay? So I think that bye week came at a really good time. They played back on the 8th. They beat Taylor 36-6 out of Pearson. So, Cocoa Beach, I'll take them tomorrow night, guys. I'll take them to hand Halifax Academy, their first loss.
Yeah, this is one of those teams I was talking about when you've seen the ups and downs. They seem like they look good against Taylor. Those first 2 weeks were shaky. Halifax is definitely a winnable game. They're only ranked 8 spots above Cocoa Beach in the state of Florida. 3-0, that's a deceiving record. They haven't played the toughest schedule, and they haven't won by a lot. So definitely winnable for Cocoa Beach. I just want to see what version of that team comes out. And, if it's the one we saw early in the season, this one might be an uphill battle. If they come out like they did against Taylor, they can win this game.
Knock, you got a thought on this one?
I mean, I like Cocoa Beach, but I think this is a time for Cocoa Beach to be the team that we thought they were when we saw them earlier. Like I said, this is the time. This is where they need to make that jump. This is a team that needs to do what we talked about with Titusville and Merritt Island, where they are ascending at this point of the season.
Most people will look at the O'Galley and Cocoa game and say that's the game of the week in the county. I disagree. I think the game of the week in the county is Merritt Island and Heritage, so we'll save that one for last. Let's preview O'Galley and Cocoa. Jackson, I'll let you go first.
Yeah, this is number 1 versus number 3 in Brevard County right now, according to us. I'm interested to see Cocoa off the bye week and off the St. Thomas debacle and how they come back. I think that's going to be dangerous for O'Galley to come right up against, just because they're going to be motivated. They're going to be fired up to go out and win this game. Brady Hart in 3 games is the passing leader in this county in every statistic: yards, completion percentage, QBR, all of that. He's the best. They don't run the football that much, but they don't really need to. Javen Boggs and CJ Bragg, both top 5 in receiving yards. That defense we've talked plenty about. They are dominant. That offensive line's dominant. I think O'Galley's got a lot of talent, but I just don't think that they're going to be able to stack up against Cocoa. And that's not to say they're weak. I don't think right now any team in Brevard County could stack up against Cocoa, and I think O'Galley's going to struggle in this one.
You see a lot of people putting up posts, knock, saying Cocoa by 14, Cocoa by 21. That's not the goal for Cocoa in this tomorrow night. Cocoa wants to run the clock on O'Galley. The question is, can they do it?
Listen, when you look at the last 2 games, and you're talking about guys, 5-star caliber guys on these defenses. You go to St. Thomas and you go to Venice as well. Last 2 games, Brady Hart's completed 72% of his passes.
Is that all?
That's it. 72%. That's not, nothing to shake your head at, right? 900 yards, 9 touchdowns. Boggs, he's had 21 catches in the last 2 games. Right. Bragg, 21 catches in the last 2 games. It's just impressive. Now, I will look at this from the O'Galley Commodores' perspective. If they want to stay in this game here, they're going to have to be effective in running the football, which is going to be extremely difficult against that defense. But they're going to have to get, I think, creative in ways to, it's not just going to be traditional lead, toss, zones, things of that nature. They're going to have to try and get creative in getting their playmakers the ball. When you look at O'Galley, Welch is the guy that I think of. At least stat-wise, he's only got 9 carries for 139 yards. I'm leaning on Welch tomorrow night quite a bit. Let Williams kind of be that bruiser, work the body shots on that Cocoa Tiger defense. You've also got Small, who's got 10 carries for 75 yards. I'm getting creative in some ways of getting those guys in space against this very tough defense. And Crooms has got to watch for the mix of coverages that Coach Diesel will throw at him.
For the love of the football gods, protect the football.
Yeah.
Well, that just goes without saying, because if you give Coco short fields,
If
it
you're
will be a running
standing
clock.
in the pocket, gentlemen. Get that camera. If
he throws
you're
that ball,
standing in the pocket,
He's standing and yelling at us.
quarterbacks in Brevard County, stop doing this. It's going to get stripped every time. Hands up here. Stop turning the football over from the pocket. All right, that's my rant of the week, okay? Stop turning the ball over.
Jackson, what did you do?
Get it up here in front of you. Put another hand on it, for goodness sake. God love him, I was looking at Cade Ross at Graceland University, still doing the same thing. The football way back here, right? It's not baseball. Get the ball up, keep a hand on it, and protect it. Why give them? They're already going to come in. Teams with defensive lines like Coco are already going to come in and strip the football because they're so strong. Come across the top and smack it out of your hand, right? So why are you going to put it down here?
How's your hand feel on that one?
It just frustrates me when I'm broadcasting the game and I see a young quarterback hold the football down here. I want to go down on the sidelines and go, what the hell are you doing? Putting it up here. All right.
So, ladies and gentlemen, there's the Alan Slaughter-Zinski lessons.
Moment of the week.
Yeah, there you go.
Can you see what kind of a coach I would be, right?
Well, also, you folks, wait for the DVD on how to play quarterback. That's $19.99 coming out later this week as well. Check that out. That's coming out on DVD.
Oh, my goodness. All right.
But I agree with you, Alan. Listen, Crooms has got to make sure he protects that football. Do not put that ball in harm's way. If you got to eat it, eat it. Give your defense, lean on that defense to try and keep you in this game. But it is going to be tough because this is going to be a tall order. This is going to be a high-flying passing offense. This is probably the best passing offense.
Bye.
Oh, yeah.
And St. Thomas.
All right.
And St. Thomas.
Yeah.
They're going to be mad, and they're going to listen. This is O'Galley. This is a measuring stick game for them.
And I'm just going to say it for what it is. Coco, always when they're playing teams in this county. Now, look, O'Galley gave them a run for their money a couple of years ago during the pandemic year. But this is different.
Yeah.
Okay? That Coco team isn't nearly as good as this Coco team is. No offense to anybody that played on that team, by the way. But this Coco team is good. It's a nationally ranked team, depending upon what national rankings you look in. So Galley's got their work cut out for them. We know that. So here's the question. Can Welch and Williams carry the football enough to keep Brady Hart? Because the best defense or the best or what do they say, the best defense that you can play really is not to have to play defense at all, right? Mm-hmm. So can Welch and Williams keep Coco off the field enough in this game to make it a game by the fourth quarter?
I don't think so. I think these two running backs are extremely talented. Tay Welch, 332 yards, 3 touchdowns on 41 carries. Delvonte Williams, 241. But the offensive line kind of concerned me last week against Satellite. Satellite was bringing pressure. They got to Crooms multiple times. And, Satellite's a great defense, don't get me wrong, Coach Helton's group. But that's a far cry from Coco's defense, and they're going to do that to another multitude of a degree. So I think the running backs are good enough to do it, but the offensive line I don't think is going to be able to hold Coco down.
Not.
Well, this is where I'm going to counter, though, because, again, Coco doesn't necessarily bring a lot of blitz pressures. So, Mike, and again, this is going to be a tall order because that defensive line arguably is the best defensive line in the county. But can their 5 guys, and again, they're going to be without Sandman Thompson, so that helps, but can their 5 guys hold against a 4-man pass rush? Now, that's tough because even St. Thomas Aquinas couldn't hold it, so I'm not saying that O'Galley will, but I think it's going to be interesting to see how O'Galley's offensive line game plans against a 4-man rush.
What I was going to say was Coach Schneider and his staff have always done a terrific job. And, they took some heat last year for putting 76 up on Space Coast, but I don't think there was anything they could do about that. He's always done a terrific job in calling off the dog, so to speak. I don't know that we see that in these coming county games this year. Maybe for a couple of teams, but there are a couple of teams out there that I don't know that we see that. I don't know that we see that tomorrow night. I don't. We'll see. Jackson, final score prediction or whatever, however you want to do it.
Yeah, I definitely have Coco in this one. I think they'll run the clock. That's what I'll say.
Knock your broadcasting. You going to stick with the same old
Yeah, I'm going to stick with it.
Howard Cosell old school mentality where you're
Pretty
not
much.
going to pick the game?
Pretty much.
Yeah, I think Coco runs the clock tomorrow night. All right. I'm not broadcasting it, and I pick it anyway. Yeah, I think Coco. I think by the time you reach the fourth quarter, I think the clock is a run tomorrow night. So, but I will say this. Just like I said about Heritage last week, we will learn a lot about O'Galley in defeat, about how they bounce back the next week. Because I certainly think right now, based on everything that I've seen going in, I like O'Galley and Merritt Island really in this district. And I think both of them are more than capable of beating Rockledge to win this district. I do. I believe that.
Yeah, I think that district's definitely it every year is the most competitive, and I think all those teams bring something different to the table. And yeah, I think O'Galley's going to gain a lot of this game. I mean, this is going to be the toughest team you play going forward, probably through the first few rounds of the playoffs, however far you make it.
Be the toughest team they play.
Probably the whole playoffs,
I agree.
honestly. So,
game of the week: Merritt Island 4-0 at Heritage 3-1. Knock, you get it first.
Listen, Heritage, they got to try and contend with a well-balanced offense with the rushing and the passing attack that the Mustangs can bring. This is a big testament for Heritage. I mean, if Merritt Island comes in and wins, you got to move them really up the rankings. That doesn't necessarily mean you move Heritage down, but I'm really curious to see how Heritage responds.
They're 5-0 with a nice win over Heritage. They're the second best team in the county. That's my opinion.
Right there. All right.
I mean, it's my opinion. So who you got in this one?
I'm gonna take Merritt Island by 3.
Who?
Merritt Island.
Merritt Island by 3.
Yep.
All right. There you go, Mustang Nation. Jackson?
Yeah, I think this is where we're going to see now. We saw kind of a litmus test for Heritage against Oviedo and how this defense could hold up after pitching all the shutouts. And now Merritt Island's offense is going to do the same thing. They're going to attack them, passing, rushing. And if the Heritage defense is legit this season, they're going to have to stand up to this test wholeheartedly, and they're going to have to play a good game. I personally think that Oviedo game, woke them up. I think they're going to be back like they were playing the first few weeks. I have Heritage by a touchdown, maybe 10 points, but Merritt Island's going to hang in there for a while. I just think Heritage got the wake-up call that they needed, and I think they may be back.
I agree with you, and here's what I'll say. Both of these teams' strengths of schedule prior to the Oviedo game, I mean, you can look on Max Preps and see it. It's not impressive. 3-13 for Merritt Island. I can't remember what Heritage's was, but Heritage got the good team first. You know what I'm saying? On their schedule. Merritt Island runs into that for the first time tomorrow night, and just simply because of that, Heritage has seen it. Merritt Island will for the first time tomorrow night. I like Heritage in this football game. I think it'll be close. I think Heritage pulls away late a little bit because I think they're deeper. I think they have. I just think they're deeper. I think their roster's deeper. But I like Heritage to pull away late, maybe by 10 points, Jackson, as you said. But I certainly think this will be a close game. But let me say this. There are no more, we say on here constantly, there are no moral victories in defeat. And I won't give Merritt Island a moral victory tomorrow night should it be a close, hard-fought game, unless they get robbed like Coco did. But I will say I'd be willing to bet that if Merritt Island doesn't win this football game tomorrow night, they'll be a much better football team because of it.
Yeah, I mean, it's to say I'm applying the same principle to Merritt Island, win or loss here, that I did Heritage last week. I think if they, come out with a loss, they're gonna rear back up the next week and keep doing this. Because at the start of the season, I thought, this is a surprise start out of Merritt Island. Now it's just turned into sustained success. So
yep.
I think after this, I don't think this is a fluke start. I think Merritt Island can carry this after
Having
Heritage.
to think about your Super 7 all over again, would you do them any different?
I don't think so. I mean, I'm confident with what I had, but I think this week's going to prove, if I should be or not. But because that's what I think. I mean, this week's been going to be, in the county at least, the most telling so far. So, yeah, that's going to be a big game.
What about you, Knock?
I mean, here's the deal. I still believe who in the county can beat Rockledge outside of Cocoa. Merritt Island looks like
You want to see it first.
I do want to see it because here's the deal. We can talk about this. Now, if you want to talk about in terms of playoffs and where they go, top teams in the county, yeah, I'll push Heritage, I'll push Merritt Island, and I'll push a few teams maybe ahead of Rockledge in terms of, okay, if we're basing this off of strictly who goes deeper in the playoffs from Brevard County, I'll throw it ahead. But in terms of, like, we're talking about the best teams, if we were to line them up and say who's going to beat who, I don't know yet that if there's anybody that can beat Rockledge that's not named Cocoa.
We're going to see next week. I don't know that this Osceola game did anything for Rockledge in terms of this. You know what? Osceola was 0-4 coming in. They had played 4 teams that were ranked inside the state top 35. I get that. But Osceola, to me, is not seminal this year. There's just something different about it. I watched an Osceola game the other day, and I don't know. It just seemed a little bit different for me. The Rockledge offense, to me, is still struggling. Still struggling. The defense, I think, is point on. I don't know that you can take on a Merritt Island and struggle defensively or struggle offensively like you certainly aren't going to be able to take on Cocoa and struggle offensively like that.
No.
So as I look at their schedule, and you got Trinity Christian next week. That's a damn good football team. All right, so we'll see. Final thoughts, guys. Well, let me real quick go down here before I get final thoughts. Holy Trinity at Father Lopez, Melbourne at Topa Caliga, or however that's pronounced. St. Joe's at MCC, Palm Bay at Fort Pierce, Cardinal Mooney at Space Coast, Fleming Island at Titusville, Vieira at Baker County, Satellite at Astronaut, O'Galley at Cocoa, Halifax Academy at Cocoa Beach, Merritt Island at Heritage, and your Brevard Sports Network games of the week are O'Galley at Cocoa, Knock, Chase, and Double D on that one, Merritt Island at Heritage, Caleb, Billy, and Coach Blue. Vieira at Baker County, myself and Coach Minnie on that one. Satellite and Astronaut, that'll be Jackson and Logan Pettit. And, of course, tomorrow night will be the Walk-Ons post-game show live from where else? We don't call it the Walk-Ons post-game show because we're down the street at Long Doggers. It's because it's from Walk-Ons in Vieira. All right, guys, your final thoughts of the night. And let me get one more thing. Congratulations again to Chase Cromartie, our American Air and Plumbing Cool Zone Football Florida Tough Offensive Player of the Week. And congratulations to Nate Lopez, our Cool Zone Florida Tough American Air and Plumbing Defensive Player of the Week. All right, guys, final thoughts going into tomorrow. What do you need to see? What are you looking for? The 2 things you're looking for the most as your final thought tonight.
I'm just looking at both Merritt Island and Heritage. Straight up, whoever wins, how they do it, where they do it. Those are the 2 teams I'm most interested in. And then teams playing some Addy County teams, Titusville and Palm Bay, most come to mind with Fort Pierce Central and Fleming Island. Those are teams in the Super 7 that I want to see come out and beat both of those teams. And I want to see them keep that success up. Those are both teams I think are evenly matched with them. And with that, I think it could provide a close game environment to which both those teams need to win those games.
Knock 2 things you're looking for.
The debate at number 2, I'm wondering how we're going to set this thing up on Sunday because the results could vary. I mean, obviously Rockledge wins tonight by 3, but we're not exactly impressed with it. O'Galley, how much do they lose by? Or how much do they?
Could they pull the upset?
Could they pull an upset? How much does that influence? Does Merritt Island, if they beat Heritage, or if Heritage beats Merritt Island, do they move up? The debate for number 2 is a fantastic debate.
Wide open.
It's fun. It's great.
Yep. Me personally. I'm looking for sustainability. I want to see teams get better at this point. I think that that's the one thing I think that has really eluded some of the programs is we've not seen the improvement that we thought we would see from the Kickoff Classic until now. And I think it's going to hurt Brevard County once we reach the playoffs if this doesn't change. But we'll see. There's still 5 solid weeks of football to play. Announced today, the FHSAA said they will hold the state championships at FAMU this year. So we're all excited to get up to FAMU because I expect at least one team to be there. So, Caleb, thank you so much for getting this set up. And thank all of you out there. And one more last look at our games on tap tomorrow night. There you see them on the screen. You'll see my ugly mug in the middle for Caleb Brown, for Anthony Knockreiner, for Jackson Robb. We also want to thank UbrZati for the UbrZati High School Football Preview Show brought to you by American Air and Plumbing. Have a great night, everybody, and, well, you know the drill. Make it a sports night.